Welcome to the future! I'm just playing with you. But really, we are in the future. We live in a time where we can communicate with someone from the other side of the world without ever having to step a foot outside of our own homes. 1,000 years ago, we couldn't have possibly imagined this ever happening. Or could we? I have a theory. Just hear me out, because this might sound a little crazy. But the Talmud states, which it's a part of, it's one of the books, commentary of Torah. There will be a period of about 7 years of terrible famines and other troubles. The land of Israel will, at the time, be under non-Jewish control, and the leader of the tribe of Ephraim will arise to lead we'll have a military, he'll lead a military against these nations who control Jerusalem. I was thinking, what if those 7 years already happened? Think about it. The Holocaust, from the time of the Kristallnacht, Night of the Broken Glass, in 1938 to the end of Hitler's reign in 1945, was a 7-year period that the Jewish people went through hunger and trouble, in which opened the eyes of the world and created the establishment of a Jewish state in 1948 in the solar calendar. Now, if you convert the solar calendar to the Jewish calendar, it is the year 5708. And if you count starting from the first verse of the 5 books of Moses all the way to the 5708th verse, you will have the statement, "Then the Lord your God will return you from exile from which you were sent, and he will have compassion on you, and will return and gather you from all the nations where the Lord your God has scattered you." The historical event of the establishment of Israel was prophetically and perfectly preserved in the books of Moses. To extend this, let's go back a few verses. Let's go back to 5706 verse. What will happen is when all these things come upon you, while you are among all the nations where God your God has banished you, the blessings and the curses which I have set before you, will you take into your heart. You will be thankful for these blessings and curses that I've given you, that I put upon you, and you will return to God your God with all your heart and with all your soul, and you will listen to his voice, to everything I am commanding you today, you and your children. Furthermore, the Talmud quotes, in its time, I will hasten it, which the Gemara explains to mean, if the children of Israel merit, I will hasten the redemption. If they do not merit, then the redemption will take place in its time, i.e. the year 6000. And since we have Israel back in our hands literally today, in the year 2010, and little by little are we returning, as according to the Talmudic verse, Mashiach ben Yosef, the first Redeemer, who brings the redemption little by little in the way of in its time. We see him, but not now. We gaze upon him, but it will not happen soon. He points out that Mashiach ben Yosef, who he refers to as Mashiach ben Ephraim, will be killed in the first war by Romulus, as Chazal says. But he says the continuation of this verse, and a tribe will arise from Israel, hints at the fact that if the Jewish people become righteous, such that that they can be referred to as through the appellation Israel, rather than as the term Yaakov, which means servant of God, Israel means the children of God. Then Mashiach ben Yosef will not be killed by Romulus. And since in 1948 Israel became a Jewish state, it came back in our hands, then this means that the Mashiach ben Yosef will not die, will not be murdered. He will die naturally, and eventually, I guess, be resurrected. He says that based on the Gedolah Israel have commanded us through Sefer Eitz Chaim Shar Hamida, to have in mind the salvation of Mashiach ben Yosef when we say Lishu Ashcha Kavinu, based on the verse in Parshas Vayeche, Bereshis 49:18. He thus says that one should pray for Mashiach ben Yosef that he does not die in war. Despite the 1939 white paper, which deeply angered the Zionist leadership in Palestine, Ben Gurion, at that point in time, was the chairman. In 1939, was the chairman of the Jewish Agency, set the policy for the Zionist relationship with the British, and he says, "We shall fight the war against Hitler as if we were no white paper, and we shall fight the white paper as if there were no war." My opinion is that David Ben Gurion was Mashiach ben Yosef. And to go further into that, David Ben Gurion was the first and longest serving prime minister of Israel. He is often referred to as the founding father of Israel for his role in molding and setting the course for Zionist history. He led Israel during its War of Independence, quote, War of Independence, and proclaimed the state's independence during a speech in Tel Aviv on May 1948, where the prophecy in the 5 books of Moshe that says, "We will return to the land of Israel." And so now we're waiting for Mashiach ben David to resurrect Mashiach ben Yosef and resurrect the rest of the people that are the rest of the Jewish people, and bring every single Jew back to Israel, back to Jewish observance. And on that day, there will be no more war, no more hunger, no more jealousy, not even competition. This is my theory. I believe that that we do have the right to be called Israel now and not Yaakov anymore. We are Israel. And that those 7 years, those 7 years of the test from God has happened, and that was the Holocaust. And now all we got to do is, guess the only thing we can do now to those Jews out there who are still stuck in exile, or still, I guess for us, we're still waiting for those Jews to come back to who they are, and all we can do is love them. And through that love, will the Mashiach come even faster. Thank you for listening. I'm gonna wait a few minutes because YouTube usually kind of erases a lot of my work. So if you don't mind listening to me babble on for a minute or two until that space gets created. Oh, by the way, look at my shirt. Mr. Owl, how many licks does it take? It definitely does not take 3 licks. I'm telling you that right now.